President Lee Jae-myung heads to Europe next week for a 10-day diplomatic tour that includes the G7 summit in France, as well as a visit to Belgium, Italy, and the Vatican. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang arrived in South Korea on Friday, saying he wanted to thank the company's Korean partners and customers, while teasing several surprises for the local market. Korea's financial markets were rocked by sharper volatility today, with the won tumbling against the dollar and the Kospi plunging amid heavy foreign selling. President Lee Jae-myung will be departing for Europe next week to attend the G7 summit in France. He'll also meet with European leaders for separate talks on the economy and security. Our Yoon Jung-min takes a closer look at what's on the agenda.
Next week, the South Korean leader will embark on a four-nation, 10-day-long trip to Europe, which will be his first trip to the bloc as president. His itinerary will first take him to Belgium, where he will meet with Belgian Prime Minister Bart de Wever and King Philip. On Tuesday, he will hold talks in Brussels with the EU leaders, including Ursula von der Leyen. His talks with the European leaders are expected to cover the economy and trade amid growing global protectionism, as well as security partnership and global issues.
We share similar values with the EU, such as a norms-based multilateral global order, democracy, and market economy. It is a crucial partner for us to upgrade ourselves into a diplomatic powerhouse as a G7+.
President Lee Jae-myung will then head to Rome for a state visit. He will be received by Italy's President Sergio Mattarella and hold a summit with Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni for a discussion on a bilateral strategic partnership. A Korea-Italy business roundtable is also scheduled, and Lee will meet with Italian lawmakers and visit Florence for discussions on cultural cooperation. On Sunday, the president will hold a special mass for peace and solidarity at the Vatican. The next day, he will meet with Pope Leo XIV. President Lee will discuss peace on the Korean Peninsula with the spiritual leader. For the final leg of the trip, he will attend the expanded G7 summit in Evian, France, hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron. The expanded session is expected to cover global economic imbalance and AI issues. The South Korean president is expected to deliver speeches to share the country's know-how and experience.
Korea attends the G7 summit for the second year in a row. We are expected to solidify our status as a responsible global player, as a G7+ nation. We will actively join global solidarity to address global challenges.
Eyes are on whether he will get to meet U.S. President Donald Trump for a pull aside. The Blue House added that consultations are in the works, but nothing has been decided. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang is here in Seoul for a second visit in some 7 months to meet with tech leaders here and to engage with the broader public as he mounts a charm offensive. Our Jo Young-eun tells us more.
Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang arrived in Korea on Friday through Seoul's Gimpo International Airport at around 1:20 p.m., hinting that he has some surprises prepared for Korea. Beginning a 4-day visit packed with meetings on deepening ties across AI, robotics, and computing, Huang spoke to reporters upon his arrival.
Artificial intelligence build-out is accelerating. We had a very big year last year. And the Korean market is doing very well. I'm very happy about that. The second half is going to be much larger than the first half, and next year it's going to be very large.
Huang's first stop was a PC room in Seoul's Hongdae area operated by esports team T1, where he met with the team's League of Legends roster and handed over an Nvidia RTX 5090 graphics card to Captain Lee Sang-hyuk. On Friday night, Huang attended a dinner with some of Korea's most influential business figures, including SK Group Chairman Choi Tae-won, LG Group Chairman Gu Kwang-mo, and Naver Chairman Lee Hae-jin. Hyundai Motor Group Executive Chair Jung Hee-sun was reportedly unable to attend due to scheduling conflicts. The gathering began at a popular grilled pork belly restaurant in the Hongdae area, in what local media are calling a samso meeting, a combination of samgyeopsal and soju. Industry observers expect discussions to cover a wide range of cooperation areas, including high-bandwidth memory, AI data centers, autonomous driving, robotics, and physical AI. With many viewing Huang's visit as an opportunity for Nvidia to further expand its footprint within Korea's AI ecosystem. Huang is also expected to meet Kim Taek-jin, founder and chief executive of gaming company NC Corporation, on Sunday, where discussions are likely to focus on gaming technologies and AI collaboration. On Monday, Huang is also expected to hold a series of meetings with Korean AI startup founders and robotic startup leaders, highlighting Nvidia's growing interest in the sector. He is also reportedly planning visits to research facilities at Seoul National University, including its AI Institute and Robotics Research Center, followed by visits to LG Twin Towers and Naver headquarters on the same day. 조영은, Arirang News.
South Korea posted its second largest monthly current account surplus in April, which brings the country's current account surplus for the first 4 months of the year beyond $100 billion. Lee In-jin has more.
Driven by the continuous boom in semiconductor exports, Korea's current account surplus surpassed the $100 billion mark in just the first 4 months of the year. And according to data released by the Bank of Korea on Friday, the country posted a surplus of $28.29 billion in April, marking the second largest monthly surplus on record. This brings the cumulative surplus from January to April to $102.67 billion, which is more than 4 times what was recorded during the same period last year. The milestone was driven heavily by the goods account, which posted a $33.88 billion surplus. A BOK official stated that in just 4 months, the surplus from the whole of 2024 has already been surpassed and is close to last year's total, which was the highest on record. He added that looking at figures for the first quarter, South Korea ranked second, trailing only China, up from fifth. Taiwan has maintained a larger surplus than South Korea since 2019 and was ahead of South Korea by $57 billion last year. But South Korea is ahead by roughly $12 billion. The services balance posted a deficit of $2.42 billion. Within the services balance, travel recorded a deficit of $30 million. After turning to a surplus in March for the first time in 11 years and 4 months, it shifted back into a deficit. However, a hike in the number of arrivals, exceeding 2 million in both March and April, has reduced the deficit to be smaller than that of March of last year. April marks the country's 36th consecutive month in the black. Lee In-jin, Arirang News.
The South Korean currency and its stock market lost tremendous ground on Friday as foreign investors engaged in heavy profit-taking. Our Kim Do-yeon has this report.
The Korean won closed at 1,539.1 won against the greenback on Friday, up 9.4 won from the previous day's close. The local currency has sharply weakened right after the opening bell, surging to an intraday high of 1,549.1 won, surpassing levels not seen since the global financial crisis in March 2009. The stock market also took a severe hit, with the benchmark Kospi plunging 5.54% or 478.82 points to finish at 8,160.59. The index dropped 3.66% at the start and plummeted as much as 6.96% to an intraday low of 8,038.10 during morning trading, triggering a sidecar halt to temporarily suspend program trading sell orders. The downward pressure was concentrated on large-cap tech and semiconductor stocks. Market bellwether Samsung Electronics dropped 6.40% to close at 329,000 won. SK Hynix plunged nearly 10% to finish at 2,070,000 won, while LG Electronics tumbled 7.62%. The primary driver of the market turbulence is the massive outflow of foreign capital. Foreign investors dumped more than 2 trillion won on the main bourse in the morning session alone. This marks the 20th consecutive session of net selling, bringing their total net sell-off for the year to over 117 trillion won.
Foreign investors are continuously selling Korean stocks. When they do, they sell the Korean won to buy US dollars and take their capital out of the country. This is exactly why the exchange rate is surging. The combination of the foreign sell-off and Korea's relatively insufficient foreign exchange reserves is what drove the exchange rate.
Market watchers attribute the broader capital flight to the tech sector correction on Wall Street, sparked by Broadcom's earnings miss alongside prolonged geopolitical uncertainties in the Middle East.
We need to monitor whether this is driven by factors other than portfolio rebalancing. We must wait and see if the foreign sell-off intensifies even after issues like the Middle East geopolitical risks are resolved.
As capital flight and external uncertainties persist, market attention now shifts to whether the Bank of Korea and the Finance Ministry will intervene to stabilize the currency. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
South Korea and the U.S. have held a reciprocal repatriation ceremony for the remains of soldiers falling during the Korean War for the first time here on Korean soil. Our Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
The remains of soldiers killed during the Korean War have been repatriated to South Korea and the U.S. They are composed of 10 South Korean soldiers who were identified in Hawaii and returned to South Korea, while those of 3 U.S. service members will be transported to the U.S. The ceremony marked the very first time a reciprocal repatriation has been held in South Korea rather than in Hawaii.
오늘은 한미 양국이 함께 피땀 흘려 굳건히 지켜낸 이 대한민국에서 최초로 한미 6.25 전사자 유해를 상호 봉환하는 뜻깊은 자리입니다. 그 영웅들의 숭고한 희생 덕분에 우리는 자유와 평화를 지켜낼 수 있었습니다.
President Lee presented a nameless military identification tag to the South Korean heroes, reaffirming the country's commitment to finding out their identities. For the remains of the U.S. service members, Lee presented an Arirang scarf, a recreation of a scarf sent in 1952 by an American soldier who had fought in Korea and made it while praying for his mother's health. South Korean Defense Minister and the UNC commander underlined how the countries will continue their journey to have fallen war veterans' remains returned home.
We have recovered the remains of more than 13,000 fallen service members and returned 275 of them to their families. However, our mission is not yet complete. We will not stop until every last hero is found and brought home.
Let this ceremony serve as a message to all who wear the uniform. We do not leave our fallen behind. The United States and the Republic of Korea will continue this mission until every single missing in action is accounted for.
The remains of the Korean service members will be taken to the Ministry of National Defense's Recovery and Identification Unit at Seoul National Cemetery, while those of U.S. service members will be sent to Hawaii for identification and efforts to find their families. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
The National Assembly has elected its new leadership on Friday, marking the start of the second half of the parliament's term. The ruling Democratic Party's sixth-term lawmaker Cho Jung-sik has been elected as speaker, and his pledge to build a parliament that delivers tangible results. Jo will leave the party and serve as an independent while holding this position. Now, for deputy speaker positions, the ruling party's Nam In-sun and main opposition People Power Party's Pak Deok-keum have been elected. South Korea has been elected to the UN Economic and Social Council for a 3-year term beginning in 2027. According to Seoul's Foreign Ministry on Friday, the election took place during the 80th session of the UN General Assembly in New York on June 4th. The ministry says the result reflects international trust in Korea's contributions to addressing global economic, social, and development challenges. Korea will serve its 11th term on the 54-member council, which coordinates discussions on issues including sustainable development, humanitarian assistance, public health, and climate change. Seoul remains in close communication with Beijing through diplomatic channels, hoping for progress towards peace here on the Korean Peninsula, as Chinese President Xi Jinping prepares to visit Pyongyang on June 8th to the 9th. The Blue House here on Friday shared hopes for China to continue to play a constructive role on issues related to the peninsula. Meanwhile, Seoul's Unification Ministry also made note of the Chinese leader's upcoming visit, which marks his first to North Korea in 7 years. The ministry also added that the administration's North Korea policy of peaceful coexistence supports communication over confrontation on the peninsula. In other news, Iran now says it's not looking to impose transit fees on ships traveling through the Strait of Hormuz. Instead, it's reportedly planning to collect service fees. Cha Yoon-kyung has more.
Iran on Thursday local time said it was considering collecting fees from ships transiting the Strait of Hormuz, maintaining it has sovereignty over the waterway. Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Qasem Gharibabadi said Iran was not seeking to collect passage fees, but rather compensation for services jointly provided by Iran and Oman to vessels navigating the shipping route. Gharibabadi acknowledged that some countries may not be pleased with the move. However, he stressed that the plan was compatible with international law. Iran previously set up the Persian Gulf Strait Authority, a body that ships must seek permission from to go through the Strait of Hormuz. However, the U.S. Treasury said that U.S. citizens are prohibited from receiving any services from Iran related to passage through the waterway, regardless of whether a payment was made. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent warned last Thursday that the U.S. would aggressively impose sanctions against Oman if it supported Iran in facilitating the collection of tolls. Against the threat of the Trump administration, Oman is shedding light on its links with Iran, insisting it has only been negotiating with Tehran on a future management system for the waterway. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump showed his confidence, saying there could be progress in negotiations with Iran to end the war soon. Against this backdrop, Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem rejected the Washington Declaration, insisting resistance will continue, weakening Trump's efforts to forge peace with Tehran. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
According to the Korea Heritage Service on Friday, the UNESCO World Heritage Committee recommended the inscription of Kipbar, Korean tidal flats Phase 2. The recommended inscription includes Kipbar in Sasan, Chungcheongnam-do Province, as well as Gohung, Muan, and Yeosu in Jeollanam-do Province. The final decision will be made at the 48th session of UNESCO's World Heritage Committee, scheduled to be held in Busan this July. Now, first inscribed in 2021, Korean tidal flats are recognized for their ecological significance as habitats for more than 2,000 species, including endangered migratory waterbirds along the East Asian Australasian flyway. The proposal also includes enlarging buffer zones around the already listed sites of 4 tidal flats to better encompass bird migration. K-beauty has been quite the trend for a while now, and it's worldwide. Korea's top health and beauty retailer Arirang has made a historic splash into the U.S. market as it opened its first branch there in California. To discuss this and the expansion of K-beauty, we have our correspondent Jung Hae-rim here in the studio. Welcome, Hae-rim.
Great to be here, Dami.
So, Hae-rim, the grand opening has drawn quite an attention, hasn't it?
Absolutely, and the attention is absolutely well-deserved because it's so remarkable that such a Korean retailer has set foot in America. The opening was even covered by local U.S. broadcasters, including KTLA and ABC. But before we start, let's take a look inside the store and real customer experiences. Long lines formed outside Arirang, Pasadena on May 29th. Hundreds of eager shoppers queued around 4 city blocks just to step inside the retailer's first official U.S. store. Inside the crowded store, customers were introduced to a distinctly Korean beauty experience. The store features free AI-powered analysis of individual skin conditions, along with programs where visitors can receive one-on-one consultations and skincare lessons.
It was actually really insane, I feel. But there were already people lining up, like camping outside of Arirang to stay overnight. That was really fun. But I feel like for me specifically, I ran towards the sunscreen station.
The thing I feel like is the biggest difference is that experience, the skin analysis, the scalp analysis, full sinks, right? Where you can really test out the products. You're going to find something that's actually going to work for like your skin or your hair.
This enthusiasm in the United States is a direct reflection of an ongoing trend among young people that can be felt daily on the streets of Seoul. For foreign tourists, these Olive Young shopping bags filled with Korean beauty products are the ultimate souvenir. And looking at the number of visitors coming in and out of one of the retailer's largest stores in Seoul, it's easy to say going global hasn't been a coincidence. K-beauty has captured Western consumers by offering gentle, natural alternatives like salmon-derived PDRN and barrier-repairing formulas at highly affordable prices. South Korea's cosmetic trade surplus topped an unprecedented $10 billion this year. The government is now raising its 2030 market target to 400 trillion won, or roughly $260 billion.
K-beauty may have initially grown on the popularity of K-pop and K-dramas, but its global success today is driven by technological innovation and product quality. With Korean beauty brands continuing to perform strongly overseas, exports could soon surpass $15 billion.
Olive Young plans to launch its second branch in Los Angeles later this month, and all eyes are on how far this K-beauty frenzy can go.
Harim, it really was quite a scene there, and it certainly seems the K-beauty fever is still ongoing. Now, the question is, what is resonating with Western customers and keeping the demand so high, Harim?
So, Tommy, I got to speak with some K-beauty lovers who actually visited the store, and two key reasons stood out. First was how Korean skincare focused on gentle yet effective ingredients that aren't overly harsh. A lot said their skin was really sensitive, but Korean products help them with skin problems like acne without irritating their skin. Another important factor is affordability. Skincare or cosmetics in general can be quite pricey in some countries, but Korean products offer high quality without the premium price tag. And for the success of Olive Young, the whole interactive vibe was a huge hit among customers.
When I walked in, I really liked how big the store was, and it was pretty easy to navigate everything. The employees were really nice and welcoming and super helpful too.
It was just high energy, and it was positive energy too. Like, I don't know, a lot of times, you know, in the States, kind of walk into a store, there's no customer service, the vibes are off, you don't really want to be there. You want to be there. You want to be in Olive Young. It felt kind of like a theme park for a beauty lover. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, yeah, contact.
Well, with the K-beauty already among the country's fastest growing industries, Harim, how much more room is there for growth, and what lies ahead for, further global expansion?
Well, Tommy, starting from this opening, the future is looking pretty bright. Experts say the beauty industry is actually closely tied with media, but they add that K-beauty's staying power now comes from something more.
The products themselves are genuinely good in terms of technology and quality, and with continued government support for the industry, cosmetics have the potential to become an even bigger growth sector in the future.
He added that indie brands are very competitive when it comes to Western markets. We can say this really is just the beginning of K-beauty's global expedition.
I see. Harim, thank you for the interesting coverage. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
My pleasure.
On Memorial Day tomorrow, we'll see passing clouds throughout the day, with early summer warmth continuing. Then on Sunday, a few showers around 5 millimeters are possible from the morning into the afternoon along the southern coastal areas of Gyeongsang-Bukdo province. Tomorrow, UV levels will be very high in most regions. With summer sunshine becoming stronger, UV protection is becoming increasingly important. Rather than applying a high SPF sunscreen just once, it's actually more effective to reapply it regularly, especially after sweating or spending time in the water. Ozone levels will also be bad in many areas, including parts of the capital and southern regions. So be sure to take extra precautions if you're spending time outdoors. As for temperatures, Seoul will start the day at 16 degrees, Chuncheon at 12 degrees, Daejeon at 14 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul will get up to 28 degrees, Daegu at 29 degrees, Busan at 26 degrees. Warm early summer conditions are expected to persist through the middle of next week. Now here's a look at the weather around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.